So for a few months I stay with brothers in the local church, in their houses, So it's a price you pay for your faith.
The Stand Radio, Saturdays at 4 and Sundays at 8 p.m. Central on American Family Radio.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network for this Tuesday, March the 19th, 2024. Live radio show for the next hour and 24 and a half minutes. We'll be here. And the panel today are the regulars. Tim Wildman, that's me. Ed Battagliano.
Good morning. I'm just regular Ed.
It's regular Ed, so we got half a brain right there. Four.
Oh, man.
We got Wesley Wildman, who makes 3/4 of a brain.
That's right. Good morning. And unfortunately for our radio host, there will be no breaks today because there are no guests.
No guests?
We apologize. So you do get all of us.
Yeah.
The whole time.
It's us or nothing.
There
ain't no guests, people.
No.
Huh? How you like that English, Ed?
I love
Think
it.
we're off to a good start?
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
I just got a red pen out.
Hey, if it wasn't for the word ain't, we wouldn't have half the songs.
No, that's true.
That's true.
Ain't.
That's fair.
Nobody sings a song and go, is not.
No, you're not going to get that.
That's not going to be. That's not
Can you
going to
imagine? Well, Fred Jackson makes up the last quarter of our brain here.
That's right. I just listened to your wisdom.
Just sit there and listen. That's right.
They didn't sing the song, is no mountain, there's not a mountain high enough.
There is no mountain high enough.
You got to say, ain't no mountain high enough.
That's right.
So, all right. Welcome to the program. Hey, would ask your prayers for our brother, Steve Jordahl, Steve Paisley Jordahl. He's going to be out for a few days, right, Fred?
Next couple of weeks, recovering from some knee surgery this morning.
Well,
Old football injury.
We didn't violate any HIPAA laws there, did we, Fred?
We didn't. Fred did.
Fred did. No, Steve mentioned it on the radio.
Yes. Yeah.
But he is having knee surgery. So some parts of the knee.
That's my understanding. Yes.
Yeah.
Steve told me that some titanium they put in there on the bottom of the femur.
Sure.
To improve the movement of the joints in the knee.
Yeah,
and that's as far as I'm going to go.
Well, you got to melt it down first, that titanium, and then you got to put it on the right side.
As long as when they get done with the surgery, they don't have like parts left over.
That's
like
right.
when someone works on a car.
Oh,
Listen,
dear.
We're supposed to put the screw. Where did the screw come from?
Hey, my wife Allison, bless her heart, she had a total knee replacement. When was that? July of a year and a half ago. Anyway, whenever that was, and we went in. She had her knee. Went in there. The doctor said, we're gonna mark your knee. So they marked the knee that needed the knee replacement.
Yeah.
So they didn't do the wrong one.
Yes.
That doesn't instill a lot of confidence in you.
And don't they use like a magic marker or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Just a Sharpie right out of the.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
This one.
I don't
This
know.
one.
You'd rather them be overly.
I know,
cautious,
but that just seems kind of primitive to me.
I do agree with that.
Let's mark this me with a Sharpie right here because we don't want to get the
X
wrong
marks
one.
the spot.
I don't want to get the wrong one.
Oh.
But anyway, we ask you to pray for Brother Steve because that knee replacement surgery, even though it may not be total, that's a hard thing to go to.
It is. It's quick. Steve's saying he plans to sleep in his own bed tonight.
But the recovery time is a few months, quite frankly.
Yeah.
For most people. Anyway, but you get a new knee and you get a new life, lease on life there.
He's been recently, since New Year's, has occasionally been cooking for us in TI. I wonder if he's just doing this to get out of that. Do you think
cooking?
Yeah.
Steve, you've been bringing us stuff to the office?
Yeah, he's been bringing in some nice treats that he's been.
Yeah.
So is it really neat? Can we confirm that?
No, look, you haven't been married as long as I have. When you want to get out of cooking,
Okay,
you do cook, but you just make it so bad Nobody ever wants to eat it, and nobody ever asks you again.
Okay.
Okay, so you want to
So I'll
file
learn-
that,
I'm lear-
file that
Right,
away.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
If you ever do some cooking, you just
Yeah.
make it that.
You want
know,
the kids
too
saying,
salty.
Mommy, Daddy's spaghetti tastes funny.
Yeah.
That's what you want to hear right there, huh?
I do want to make a. I did recall this when we were talking about getting the right knee. So to Wesley's point, I'd rather have him do that than this. An Austrian doctor who amputated a patient's wrong leg has been fined. A surgeon in Austria
Fined? I think it should be executed.
was
Fined?
sued for amputating the wrong leg of a patient.
Oh, my word. That's terrible. Where did that
It
happen?
was the left. This is Austria.
Hmm.
You know what? I don't want anyone in Europe making fun of the American medical system.
Right.
All right.
Amen,
Yeah,
brother.
We
Austin,
don't do
Texas.
this kind of
That's
No,
awful.
I'm just kidding.
Yes, Austria, Texas.
Wow.
He amputated the right leg of an elderly patient, even though the left leg was supposed to be amputated. That's
Oh.
from CBS News.
Mm.
So
Wow.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
use the
You-
magic
use
marker.
Use the marker. All right. We have no guest today, but we have a lot of topics to cover. The news is a buzz. What's the first story, Fred?
Well, our first story is something that I think lots of people can relate to, because if you've been shopping at the big stores over the last several years, you may have used the convenience of the self-checkout.
That's not what I call it, but I'll wait for you to finish.
Apparently, big box stores like Walmart, smaller box stores like Dollar General and Target are easing back on the number of self-checkout machines. In particular, we are told Dollar General that they are pulling self-checkout stands entirely from 300 of its stores and 9,000 other locations. It said to converting some of those self-checkout registers to regular cashier checkouts and limiting self-checkout purchases to 5 items or less in a further 4,500 stores. Now, why are they doing this? Well, the big reason is theft. There are some people, and the story from the Daily Mail goes on to say they've done some polling on this of customers, and it appears the younger you are, the more you lean towards not scanning that item, throwing it in the bag, and leaving the store.
Stealing.
Stealing. Yes.
Otherwise known as.
Yeah.
Theft.
This was a news story. Again, I saw this last night. Sent this to you guys. The retailers that are mentioned that are dialing back, they're scaling back. Maybe they'll even drop it all together. Walmart,
Mm-hmm.
Target, and Dollar General.
Correct.
Right?
Those are the 3 that are mentioned.
Self checkout. Are you surprised at this, Ed?
I'm surprised at the reason. Okay. Now I've been upset about this since they started it.
Okay.
And my wife would always, she doesn't really like me going shopping with her. Okay, because I tend to complain. I know you guys are shocked.
Mm.
Okay, I tend to complain about certain things, and I would tell when we would go through when this first started, I refused to use the self checkout. Now my wife liked it, but I refused to use it, and we would go through where there was a cashier, and I would tell the cashier almost every time, I know you didn't make this decision, but I don't like the self checkout. I think they should give people jobs to do this, and not ruin people's lives, and and so I would.
That's very Bernie Sanders of you.
Well, I said, why aren't they hiring people to do this? And I don't get paid to check out. I mean, I've seen memes on Facebook. When are they going to start making us unload the truck too? And start stocking the shelves. Okay, that's Walmart's job to get the anyway. So I thought maybe they would back off of this for those kinds of reasons, but that's not the reason. It's because of theft. Now, the story I read when I think Tim sent this around, it said that 15%, just generally speaking, 15% of customers admitted to purposefully stealing.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not going to scan it.
That's pretty shocking, 15%.
15%. But it got even more shocking, okay, because the Gen Z respondents in the survey, 21%.
31.
31%. Millennials was 21%. Gen Z, the youngest, 31%, 1 out of every 3 admitted to stealing.
And Gen Z is from 12 years old to 27.
Yeah. So this is all because they are losing billions
Mm-hmm.
to theft.
Yeah.
Wesley?
When they first started doing this, that is self checkout. That's one of the first questions we all asked. Like, how are they gonna avoid? How are we gonna keep people from stealing?
Yeah.
Right. Well, they found some solutions over the years. They added the camera.
Right.
They've also they have someone standing up there most of the time now. So they've added some features to help prevent that, but ultimately, apparently they're still being able to slip a couple items in, which adds up over time.
Right.
What I want to know, and I cannot find it in the article that we're looking at, and of course it goes 100% against PC and profiling and everything. I want to know which stores are the locations of the stores are shutting down the self checkout. Is it in Chicago?
Oh yeah,
You know,
they
like,
don't mention that.
I'd just be curious, and maybe there's no connection there. Maybe I'm just over speculating here, but it would be interesting if they go, well, these stores are having more theft than these stores, and and where they're located. Therefore, we're going to shut down the self checkout here. We're going to leave it here. And I'm just saying, if you're selectively picking stores, and apparently some areas are more honest than others.
Well, and I hadn't thought about that angle, but that would make sense, because in a lot of these major cities, prosecutors won't prosecute people for stealing.
Mm-hmm.
In San Francisco, it was up to $1,000.
I just want to know.
So there were some people who were just outright bagging stuff and walking out.
Yes.
This might explain that in some big cities, people were going, well, you can't get in trouble for it if you get caught, so I'm doing it.
First, a couple thoughts on that. I'm with you, Brother Ed, on I didn't like the whole idea of self checkout.
Right.
And usually I would come to that place where I'm looking at the 6 at Walmart or Kroger.
Yeah.
Because Kroger does this too. I would, get my stuff and then would walk up to that self-checkout area.
Yeah.
And I would start sweating like profusely because I was intimidated by the whole idea of what I was about to try to do, especially if I did. Allison, she could do it.
Right.
And I'd just sit there and help whatever she told me.
Yeah.
But if I had to go by myself and I see a line over here for the cashier, which they put 1 up there.
Yeah.
Which is wrong.
Yeah.
Huh? It's wrong to put 1 up there. You need to put 2 up there.
They're trying to funnel you to the self-checkout.
To the self-checkout, which now they're closing.
Yeah.
Because people are stealing on blind. But so it's that. So the whole idea. But also on a practical level, if you go to the self-checkout, and maybe I'm saying something people are going to laugh at, and you have a basket of groceries, and I always found that once I get to about 6 or 7 big things, there's no more space left.
That's exactly right.
On that thing.
Yeah, you can't put it anywhere.
In that area.
And okay.
So is there maybe
No, you're right. No, you're right.
Okay.
And furthermore, with that, what I get more frustrated at, because I've conceded that this is the way it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get more frustrated that when you do go to scan, when you have too many items that won't go in the bagging area,
right.
They tell you put it in the bagging area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then they have to have somebody come over there to approve that you're moving the bag out.
And
then if you go to scan like a fruit, and you don't get it right, you get the wrong fruit. Then there's on average will come over there at least twice, sometimes 3 times.
You mean the person who's
that's correct. The designated clerk to approve my items. It's like, come on.
I know. That's just put everybody back at the checkout stand.
Yes. Who know what they're doing?
Yeah.
And there's plenty of space for you to put all your stuff.
Yeah.
Listen.
Okay. So anyway. That has nothing to do with
if that makes me Bernie Sanders, then I'm gonna mess up my hair and be Bernie.
Yeah, I like your idea of what's Walmart gonna do next. Ask us to unload the trucks.
That is funny.
And then we tip ourselves.
We stock the shelves. Where's my Christmas bonus?
There's one other aspect for the Dollar General thing. Real quick, Fred, and then we can bring you back on the show. and that is my daughter Riley, when she was in high school, she worked at a Dollar General for a couple of years. So, and she was, if I can remember correctly, she was sometimes by herself.
Yeah, those stores are pretty.
There may be one other person there. Now, this store was in a safe location, and she never had a problem. But I often thought to myself, if you've just got one person in there, and you locate maybe in a bad part of town or something, I don't know. I'm just thinking you're very vulnerable to a robbery and or a certainly theft, because you don't want the cashiers or the person working there to confront a shoplifter,
Right.
And chase them out in the parking lot or something like that, because all kind of things could happen.
Yeah.
So anyway, it just always struck me as a little, as I said, the word vulnerable for the employees when you only have one or two.
And I'm a grown man. I'm not chasing someone out in the parking lot over a can of Pringles.
No, I know.
Forget it.
I know.
Bag of Cheez-Its.
So what these stores are doing now? They're saying
Cheetos.
we're gonna shut down, right, Fred? We're gonna shut down the self checkout.
Or limit it
Limited.
to like 6
Limited.
items or less.
Yeah.
Well,
The other thing was, I'd be interested in your comments. Why is it the Gen Zers more comfortable than any other age group about stealing?
Now that's under millennials. So Gen Zers, for those who don't know, get lost in all the descriptions of the ages of people. That's the ones that are under the millennials, like
12 to 27 is Gen Z.
And then 28 to 40 or
43.
So the Gen Zs are the main culprits here.
According to this story.
Well, millennials are 21%, but that's not good.
No.
But Gen Z's 31%.
So
Admitted.
Admitted, yeah.
We have a young generation coming up that is apparently more comfortable with stealing.
I think they're more comfortable with rationalizing their stealing.
Okay.
Kind of like what we're saying, well, the government does it or corporations do it, and I can't make ends meet, and I've got these big college loans. Probably a sense of entitlement.
This is just shooting for just a quick thought. I don't necessarily at first I'm not surprised by the number of people that steal the younger you get. However, the more shocking thing for me is that they admitted to it in the sense of not having a problem with it. Usually, the people that steal, if you steal and you try to hide it, you have some sense of that was wrong.
Right.
I shouldn't have done it.
Right.
You're trying to hide it. But if you openly admit it, you're almost saying you don't think by definition there's anything wrong with it.
That's why I say they're
That's the
rationalizing.
point. Yeah, and that's more problematic.
They're treating these stores like they're welfare pantries.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or something.
And they've grown up on a lot,
But anyway, the more and more stores are probably going to go to this. They're going to funnel people back over to.
Speaking about that, we need to shut our self-checkout down too.
We have us.
I'm no, we
with
don't.
our scanning.
That's right. I'm kidding. We don't have.
We don't steal anything.
No.
our check-in here at the office. All right, you're listening to today's issues on American Family Radio. Next story, Fred.
All right. Yesterday at the United States Supreme Court, representatives of Louisiana and Missouri brought a case to the United States Supreme Court dealing with what they say is that the federal government is putting pressure on social media to curb conservative points of view. Examples were given during COVID-19, what could be said, any criticism of the government, masks, what treatments,
misinformation,
et cetera, et cetera. Well, I want to play you a little montage, as we call it, of various justices on the Supreme Court. And a lot of people are finding it a little shocking that it appears from their comments yesterday that maybe they don't have a big problem with the federal government applying pressure to social media to quash certain points of view. Cut number one.
That the government actually has a duty to take steps to protect the citizens of this country.
You can't just sort of pick and choose which part of the government you're concerned about.
Encouragement would sweep in an awful lot.
What do you do with the fact that the platforms say no all the time to the government?
Now,
Who is that?
that were various justices.
Okay.
All right. Now, in the courtroom yesterday was Governor Jeff Landry of Louisiana, and I think he was quite taken aback by what he was listening to. Cut number 3.
Well, what the justices seem to not grip is that the federal government, all the agencies and the White House, they have an X account, they have a Facebook account, they've got public service advisories that they can go out and they can talk to the American people. In fact, they could also talk to the social platforms and say, look, why don't you amplify this message, because we believe that there's content on your platforms that Americans are getting wrong. But yet the justices seems to not grip the fact that the government doesn't have the ability to balance that message. And they forget that many Americans distrust the government because of exactly that.
One particular remark from Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, she is the one that Biden has put on the Supreme Court.
She's the one that doesn't know what a woman is.
Yes,
But she's not a biologist.
She's not a biologist.
Asked during her hearing.
Yes.
She's a woman, but she doesn't know what one is.
Yes.
That's what she said, right?
Well, here's what she said yesterday with regards to this case. Quote, your view, speaking to the lawyers for Louisiana, Missouri, your view has the First Amendment hamstringing the federal government in significant ways in the most important time periods. The government, she said, actually has a duty to take steps to protect the citizens of this country by encouraging or even pressuring platforms to take down harmful information, end quote.
That's scary.
Yes.
That's scary because now when the Supreme Court hears a case, the justices will pepper both sides with questions, and they'll challenge their presuppositions, and you said this, and so you can't always glean from those exchanges what the justice might actually decide when it's time to vote. Okay, but her statement there, that wasn't a question.
No.
That wasn't rhetorical. She seems to think that the government has a responsibility and is justified in stopping misinformation.
What the government considers.
And
they get to
that the
define
First
it.
Amendment puts the government at a disadvantage in the information wars. And I'm thinking, yeah, duh, that's what the First Amendment is supposed to do. She apparently doesn't understand that the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, were required by many of the states before they would ratify the Constitution because they did not want a federal government with overwhelming power. The Bill of Rights are all written to limit the power of the federal government in precisely the way that Ketanji Brown Jackson is bemoaning.
Yeah.
She thinks the federal government should be without restrictions.
A la China.
Yes, that's frightening.
She was Biden's appointee from, 2 years ago, or something like that, a year and a half ago or so. Go ahead, what
You
you
can
say?
clip that. You can clip Ed up right there. That's a bingo.
Right.
That was. I couldn't have
Right.
said any better.
That's right.
That's right.
Bernie
Clip that
Sanders
one up.
wins one.
Hey, we're looking for a 30-second clip to play. That's it. Hey, seriously, yeah, that's exactly right. You know, with what she's saying, we all, well, I say we all, I get equally as frustrated as anybody when you hear somebody lie or say something that's untruthful, or they're mischaracterizing, or they say something that's not completely accurate, gives incomplete. But at the end of the day, the whole point of the First Amendment is that we're able to say what we believe is true, and let other people determine whether they believe that's true or not. Not for the government to get involved in deciding that much. So it's one thing for them to put out a statement, whatever they believe, but to tell another company what's true and what's not true is just totally anti-First Amendment.
The only reason I would say the federal government should have a role in speech is if we're in a national emergency situation. We're being attacked by a foreign enemy, or something of that nature. And that would only be for a short period of time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But otherwise, stay out of it.
Oh yeah.
Stay out of it. But we can talk more about this when we get back. Stay with us.
It's my turn. Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
One day, a very rich man came to a friend of his and told him that he was ready to go on vacation. His friend was a contractor, and he gave the man some plans for a house he wanted built while he was on his vacation. The rich man's friend said that he'd be happy to build it, that he would have it completed when the rich man returned from his vacation. The rich man told the contractor not to spare any expense and to build it the best he could, and he'd pay him well. Well, soon after the rich man had gone, the contractor began work on the house. From his experience, he knew that the building was going to run into quite a large sum of money. He began to think about how much money he was going to make. Then, slowly, an idea entered his mind. Why didn't he use some inferior material on the inside structure of the house? I mean, his rich friend wouldn't know the difference, and it'd be 4 or 5 years before the material showed up. So the builder ordered second-grade material to be used in the structure of the house. After a few weeks of work, the contractor saw the building begin to take shape. He thought about how much more money he was going to make since he decided to use the second-rate material. Then, one day, he began to think about how much more money he could make if he used imitation material in finishing the house on the inside and on the outside. He could get some material that looked like first-rate stuff, but would cost considerably less than the best material that the rich man had ordered. The more he thought about that, the better he liked the idea. After all, the rich man had plenty of money, and he was completely ignorant as far as building knowledge went. So he finished the house with inferior material. Soon the rich man returned from his vacation. He called his friend the builder and asked about the house. His friend told him that they had just finished the house and that he would come by and get him if he wished to look it over. The rich man said that he would. Arriving at the new house, the builder began to point out the fine points of the building. He explained to his rich friend that no expense had been spared, that everything in the building was first-rate material. Telling his rich friend what the total cost ran to, he explained that the best materials had run the cost up as opposed to other homes which look similar to this one. The rich man said that he understood and that he had expected to pay more. Then he surprised the builder. "John," he said, "we've been friends for a long time. I've looked for some way to express my love and appreciation for you and your family. I'm getting on in years, and I wanted to do something for you before I die. When we get back to the house, I'm giving you not only a check for the house you have built, but the keys and the deed as well. You see, you built it, John, and now you can live in it." Well, that's the way life is. We build them, and then we have to live in them. That's the reason we should be careful about what we build. You see, there's very little worse in this world than living in a rotten house.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
The Lord looks down from heaven on all mankind to see if there are any who understand, any who seek God. Psalm 14:2.
American Family Radio. This is Today's Issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of Today's Issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of Today's Issues.
Hey, welcome back to Today's Issues on American Family Radio. Tim, Ed, Wesley, and Fred. We're not going to give last names again because it takes too long. Okay, so you're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Before we leave this topic, what Fred was talking about earlier, there was a court case before the United States Supreme Court yesterday, which the decision won't be announced until June. But it was a very important case because what's the essence of it, Fred?
Well, the essence of it is the federal government have the right to tell these social media platforms, hey, we don't like the opinion of person A over there, let's say about masks. Are they necessary to wear? We don't like that opinion. Take that down.
Okay.
It's about government control over what messages, what opinions get out there. The federal government is saying in this, we have a right. We have a right to quash anybody who disagrees with us. This is where this would take us if the Supreme Court rules in favor of the federal government in this case.
Right.
Yeah. I haven't thought this completely through on every different example or scenario that people would offer as to why this would be acceptable. I did mention that is the federal government taken over for a time period. If we're under a national emergency, we're being nukes are coming at us from Russia or China or whatever. I mean, that's an emergency. But what they did with this COVID response for the federal government, they took over what they stretched the emergency into a year or longer, if you remember. And I think, and then we'll wind up this topic because
I do have one small point.
Because this topic gets us wound up.
Yes.
See what I did there?
Yeah.
We'll wind up the topic because this topic gets us wound up.
Yep.
That's was a country song, actually, a few years ago, if you remember. Okay, so here's the thing, is that this is what we're discussing. Back during the COVID, and people were getting treated, vaccines, no vaccines, masks, no masks, some people were discovering that ivermectin, the drug, was working. I personally know one person who was in the hospital who, had they not had ivermectin, would have died.
That's right.
Okay. I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you that turned their whole situation around. Yep. You guys know this person too.
Yes.
So, but anyway, I don't know if ivermectin is something that would have worked universally for everybody. I don't know. Everybody's different.
It doesn't harm anybody.
But okay, here's my point is.
No harm in
but the point was that if you were recommending or you might look into using ivermectin as a treatment for COVID, then these people, I mean the experts, the CDC, the federal government, the White House, whoever.
Parentheses, please.
Huh?
In parentheses, experts.
Expert, yes. Well, they would say, Tim Wildman said people should use ivermectin, which is like snake oil. Okay, so shut him down. Don't even let him discuss this because he's harming people. He's misleading people. This would be the justification for them.
Right.
For them to say this. Now, as I said, and we were off the air, off the radio when we were on break, and I said, when you have a free and open society and you have the First Amendment, I can say ivermectin. I should be able to say ivermectin all day, every day, and
Absolutely.
people can do their own homework and their own research.
Doctors give their opinions on different stuff all the time.
Right.
So why
but they have these people have the idea of shutting you down.
Right.
They want to shut you down if you suggest something like that. Go ahead.
I'll just make this point and then we can move on. I don't want to.
I don't want to move on.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I have one more.
I got
all right. Okay.
20 more minutes.
So let
on
me just
this.
say this just quickly. The further we move away from federalism and the constitutional separation of powers, the more we get ourselves into trouble with running up against the administrative state. Okay, by that I mean the executive branch and all these alphabet agencies. All right, the Constitution says, I'm paraphrasing here, if you want to restrict speech, okay, Congress has to pass a law that does not infringe upon the First Amendment. Congress passes the law. All right, what we're running into is the executive branch, who is supposed to only be empowered to execute laws that Congress has written.
Yes.
They carry it out. They execute. That's the executive branch. But with all these alphabet agencies, you have the CDC. Congress doesn't pass laws about masks or about what kind of drug cocktail you're supposed to use to combat this virus, okay, COVID-19, the CDC's passing regulations. And then the federal government, and then the executive branch, instead of executing the laws Congress makes, they make their own laws.
Yes.
And then tell everybody to follow them.
Yeah. Just a word of warning. The next issue, we've been talking about COVID.
Right.
The next issue is coming is climate change. The World Meteorological Association, I think they're based in Geneva, issued what they call this morning a red alert. The planet is burning up. They say 2023 was the worst year for high temps, and now they're saying 2024. I believe, if the Lord tarries, that the next big thing is going to be climate change. You better not disagree with us.
Or we'll shut you down.
Or we'll shut you down.
Or fine you and imprison you.
Yeah.
And the Biden administration's all in.
Yeah, it's coming, folks.
In the name of
saving the planet.
Saving the planet.
Right.
It's going to come, and farmers are going to. There are farmers in Europe now are fighting this. I believe it's in Germany.
Oh yeah, they're upset.
Draconian
And
type
France.
rules. How many cows you can have?
Right.
How big is your garden? All of these things because you're jeopardizing the climate.
Right.
Yeah, and how come it's never about India or China? The top two polluters in the world. How come these climate activists, if they want to set their priorities in order, why don't they go over there and see how far their protests get? No.
Right.
It's all about some in Europe, Canada, but they want to control the U.S. economy. Why is that? The Marxist.
Yep.
Because we're standing in the way of the globalist dream of a one-world government.
Yes. Yes.
We're too independent for our own good.
Yes.
That's true. And that's why they hate Israel, too, quite frankly.
Yep.
You're listening to today's issues on American Family Radio. I agree with you, Fred. I think that's the next one that they're going to use. There's one reason why people are willing to give up freedom. Fear.
Yes.
People will trade. It's the nature of man. They will trade. They give up freedom and liberty in the name of safety and security.
Yeah.
That's so.
We saw that in the COVID shutdowns and lockdowns.
That's right. So what you have to do, these people know this. By these people, these secular progressives, you have to scare people to death. And you tell people the planet's going to burn up. You're not gonna.
In a compelling way. They're not. If they kept doing the way they're doing it, we're not. No, I'm not buying it. Most people aren't buying it. But there is a compelling way out there that they're strategizing. I'm guessing it's going to be very similar to the COVID lockdowns, and it will catch me off guard on how they do it. And I think it will be hard to. It'll be the 3 months before we can explain it.
Yeah.
But if that does happen, I just know for me in my house, I'm not doing it again. The lockdown, personally.
You want to give your address?
Yeah, yes. And I did not. I did it for 3 weeks. Well, 4, depending on about 4 or 5 weeks. I did it after
with a good attitude, though. Didn't you have a good attitude?
For the first 5 weeks, I did.
First 5 weeks, you had a good attitude.
Yes, after
but we didn't know anything at the time.
Yeah, we did. After that,
time for the kids to go back to school.
Yeah, and I went in Dollar General, no mask. And when she followed me around Dollar General, tell me I need to wear a mask, and I told her I'm sorry, I'm not. If you want to call 911, everybody's free to do that.
Right.
But I'm not doing it. I'm not being forced to get a shot. I will do all the above if I so choose that I think that helps me out. But I'm not doing it because the government told me to do it. And everyone else a lot of other people feel that same way.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, me and your mother.
Yeah.
My mother and I spent a lot of years trying to teach you how to be rebellious.
Yeah.
And it worked. Obviously, it worked.
There's a line in the sand for all men, and mine is I will not be forced to wear something across my face in the name of.
Right.
So you know what? Just the last mic drop here. I told them I reached a point where I told the lady in Dollar General. I said, "Look, if you think that a mask work, wear it, because if you have yours on, then it doesn't matter if I've got mine on."
Right.
It was very quiet for about 30 seconds.
Right.
She processed it and thought, you know what? makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sir, use the self-checkout.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Well, as we learned, here's the thing, too, and a footnote to this whole story is if we remember COVID and we know now what's next on the horizon, listen, a lot of people did things during COVID that were irrational.
Sure.
Or they thought they were doing the right thing because
with what they had,
they were
the information
listening
they had.
exclusively to the government's message. Okay, exclusively. I'm not saying everybody at the government, the CDC, and everybody has ill motives. I don't say that. I'm saying, but this point of view that there's only one correct medical point of view in a fluid situation and a happening in real time response, and now you look back and you go, well, that was wrong, and that was wrong, but they told us to do that. No, that didn't work. Remember they were telling us, you get the COVID vaccine shot, you can't get COVID, and it can't give COVID. Remember that was
Day one.
Biden was saying that.
Right. Yes.
Some others. So I can't remember if the CDC said that, but I think they did.
Yeah.
They did.
Initially. Okay. Well, as we went along, as it turns out, that was not true. The COVID vaccine shot, while it may have helped some people, two primary things it did not do. It did not keep you from getting COVID, and it did not keep you from spreading it.
Right.
So
we need to remember this.
Yes,
Don't forget
you remember
this.
that. So are these people going back now and saying, hey, we were wrong? You know, we were wrong. We were wrong. And you remember, if you said what I said about you might want to not get the vaccine shot because there's a lot of risk and dangers involved in getting it, they would have said, I remember family, not my immediate family, but an extended family member in our family telling one of our other family members, so you think you know better than the experts?
Sure.
Talking about getting the COVID vaccine shot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it was an argument almost. It was like you.
Oh,
well,
there's a lot of division. A lot of COVID, the government and their messaging and how they handled COVID created an unnecessary amount of division amongst people, the church.
Yes, but they were telling people like us, you're the problem. You're spreading it because you won't get the vaccine.
Right.
You won't get double masked. You know what I'm saying?
Can I make a prediction? Okay, I'm going to make a prediction here.
Go.
Okay.
Like for March Madness?
No, not that kind of prediction.
Oh, okay.
All right. So first, let me say that something big is coming.
Yes.
All right.
Invasion of the
Western
border.
civilization cannot continue on the path it's on. Something big's going to come. All right. It may be the return of the Lord. Okay.
A black swan
I hope
event
so.
type
No,
thing?
I'm just going to set the groundwork before my prediction here.
Okay.
So something is coming. Maybe it's the return of the Lord. We all go to be with Jesus. I hope so. That would be fantastic. Okay. Or revival on an unprecedented scale is going to happen. Or the bad guys win temporarily, and we go into a sort of a dark age. Okay. Like if Hitler had won.
A dark age ain't temporarily.
Well, no, I'm saying that, you win at that for a while. In other words, if the Lord doesn't come back, God's not going to give us over to a permanent dark age. So let me say this, okay? As we look at this globalist dream to create a one world government, if it is not the time for that in terms of Antichrist coming or whatever, then obviously that is not going to be fruitful. So how does God break up the Tower of Babel when man tries to create this unified government in rebellion to God? God has all sorts of weapons to break those things up, okay? World War I ended the League of Nations. After World War II, we got the United Nations. If Jesus is not coming back, if we got another 100 years, another 200 years, God is going to break up this move towards one world government eventually. And my personal opinion is, and here's my prediction, it's going to be World War. I believe we are headed for another world war, and that is the way God is going to use, unless Jesus returns. Because it sure looks like what's happening around Israel, that kind of stuff is lining up.
Yeah.
Okay, so but that's what I think. I think we are going to be facing another world war within our lifetimes, and that's what God's going to use to break up some of this insanity, because it can't continue without something big happening.
Well, but the interesting question on that, and I believe we're heading toward a globalist. I mean, that is the agenda.
You mean a one world type government?
Yes.
You think we're headed there?
Yes.
That's what they want.
Because Revelation talks about that. It talks about a controlling world element.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'd be interested in your scenario you just painted, Ed, another world war. Who are the good guys and who are the bad guys?
Well, I think
country-wise.
Yeah. I can't answer that, because I used to say the U.S. is on the right side of everything, but I don't know under this administration whether we would back Israel if it came to a war in the Middle East. Okay. Anyway. I don't want to go too far down that road. I just see the potential for war in East Asia, China and Taiwan, North Korea, South Korea, Iran, and other nations against Israel, European war.
It's getting, if you look around the globe, it's getting very tense in many areas.
Yes.
You mentioned, the Ukraine-Russian war has basically been confined to the Ukraine. But France is over there going, hey, we might just send troops in.
Yeah.
Boots on the ground, even though Ukraine is not NATO.
Right.
But if Ukraine joins NATO, Vladimir Putin's saying, hey, I got nuclear weapons for a reason.
Right.
I mean, that's what he's...
that was that's saber rattling.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something else. It would be easy to knock us out of getting involved. Just look at the potential for chaos in this country with all the people that have flooded into our country through the southern border. If there are Chinese nationals, there are, but if they are here to do harm, drug cartel members, terrorists, we could easily see a couple of years of chaos in this country while we tried to get control of our own nation, and that knocks us out of being involved anywhere.
Yeah. You have that. See, ladies and gentlemen, this is a day for happy news, isn't it? Happy news. One other thing to think about. Hate to stay on a negative trajectory here, but you can look at it two ways. It's maybe a negative trajectory, but the overarching theme that we want to communicate, obviously, is that God is in control.
Right.
Amen.
And that God will have his will done ultimately.
Amen.
So, and it's up to everybody to yield and bend the knee to Jesus Christ. That's what the Bible says.
Amen.
But on the world stage, there is a story coming that the Bible prophesies about that we're talking about here. But if you have war, you have war in the Middle East. So far, it's been contained to Gaza, right? And Israel. But you have Turkey that's been threatening to get involved. You have Iran, which is, I wish we could move Iran to Mars. Let them have their own planet. Their ayatollahs could try to rule Mars. That would be, But it's a powder keg. Is that the way?
Yeah.
To look in multiple hot spots around the world. So anyway, that's I don't know any. I was going to say something else.
But I like what you said. God is in control. That's what I was trying to say is that if God wants to break things up, he has all sorts of weapons to do it.
Yes.
Okay. In the book of Revelation, those seals being broken open. Okay. Those are traditionally the weapons that God has used to level his enemies. And if that's what God wants to do, if it's not time for a one world government, he's going to break all that up.
And America today, Americans, and I'm speaking broadly and generally here, we have become a people that are mockers and scoffers.
Right.
And that doesn't end well.
No.
If you look in the Bible, in the history of man and how God's dealt with mockers and scoffers. Again, I'm talking about the general American, the general public. Overall, there is a remnant of people who are following God and Jesus Christ in this country, and maybe that's the reason God's not taking us out yet.
Right.
You know, that's
also a biblical principle.
Biblical principle there. But I'm just saying, whereas we've all heard the expression God-fearing.
Right.
God-fearing. There's a history behind that.
Mm-hmm.
America was, again, broadly and generally, we were a God-fearing people.
That's right.
We didn't all have the same denomination. We didn't all whatever.
We connected the dots between obeying God equals blessing.
Yes.
Disobeying God equals curse. And we would connect the dots.
Yeah, and the fear of God was taught in our schools, in our churches, in our homes.
Right.
And it's the same way in Canada.
Yep.
Same way in Canada. You growing up, Fred.
Mm-hmm.
God-fearing people.
Yep.
Church going for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And even if people didn't go to church, they had a respect for it and a reverence for God. I remember J.J. Jasper telling me, you know, J.J.'s in his upper 60s now, or mid 60s, but he was telling me about his dad. And his dad was not a church-going man and wasn't a believer. But when J.J. wanted to mow the grass on Sunday afternoon, this would have been in the 60s, his dad said, "You're not doing that. You're not mowing. That's the Lord's day."
Right.
So even unbelievers
back
had a reverence for the things of God. I'm just saying there was a reason we were called God-fearing people. You read Alex de Tocqueville. Go back and read Alex de Tocqueville, the French historian who came here in I think it was the late 1800s, or was it middle 1800s?
I think, it was early.
Have I got that right?
I think it's in
Anyway, he came here, he traveled America, and he basically said America's greatness comes from its churches and its fear of God. They really believe this. They go to church too much, basically.
Yeah.
He was a Frenchman, but he was saying what makes America different. So anyway, but if we've gone from being a God-fearing country to being a country that is
I like what you said.
mockers and scoffers,
filthy, depraved people. Okay, and listen,
shaking our fist at God.
Your point is exactly right about fearing God, but here's a little clue for us all. You can fear God the easy way, or you can fear God the hard way. And the easy way is to humble yourself before God and obey.
Yeah.
Okay. The hard way is for God to strike terror in your heart. Okay, by bringing desolation and judgment upon a people. That's one way to make people bow.
And he doesn't.
Well,
God doesn't care whether we're Americans or not.
No, he doesn't.
Huh?
He'll deal with us the same way he's dealt with everyone.
No respecter of persons.
No, if he dealt with his own
countries.
chosen people, Israel, throughout the Old Testament and all that, he dealt with them a certain way. You think he's given us a pass?
Right. I'm reading right now in the Bible about God sending the children of Israel into exile, into Babylon, to live under Nebuchadnezzar, because you know why? They wouldn't repent of their sin.
Right.
That's right.
So, anyway, the biblical principle is, unless we as a country turn back to the Lord God Almighty in massive numbers,
and it really needs to come from those that are leaders who are in charge. It needs to start there.
Folks, let me just tell you something about life. You think you're at rock bottom? You may find out that rock bottom has a basement.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're not at rock bottom yet.
Yeah. So how my stocks doing today, Fred? Can you check on my stocks? Because Ed's over here prophesying doom and gloom.
I like what you said. God is in control.
God is in control, and we need to obey God.
Amen.
And every day is an opportunity to serve Him.
Amen. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
In Psalm 139, David writes that God formed his inward parts, that he was knit together in his mother's womb. He was fearfully and wonderfully made. What was true of David is surely true of you and me. In fact, it's true of every man and woman, every boy and girl, and every baby born and unborn. A thought from American Family Association.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Muskie Pugh. The Attorney General of Texas says Joe Biden is willing to do anything, including putting people's lives in danger, to get more Democrat votes. Ken Paxton says illegal aliens are now being counted in the census, which affects the number of people in each congressional district. And he says Biden will stop at nothing.
They are counting illegal immigrants in their census. It's purely political. So he's willing to trade the safety of America, whether it's terrorism, whether it's drugs, whether it's other crimes. He's willing to, he being Joe Biden, willing to trade all of that to get more Democratic votes.
Wyoming Senator John Barrasso says there is a solution for the crisis that Joe Biden created on the border.
It's not new laws that we need. You put the Republicans in charge, and what we're going to get is we're going to be able to defund the things that the Democrats have been doing, the flights into the United States, the things that's enticing illegal immigrants to come here. It's the free food, the free hotels, the free money. That's all going to come to a screeching halt if we have Donald Trump.
President Biden's re-election team working overtime to ramp up attacks against former President Trump, including this latest ad, which takes his recent comments completely out of context.
Tell your supporters now, no matter what, no violence. And it's going to be a bloodbath.
Ohio Senator J.D. Vance says Biden's lies show just how far he and his allies in the media are willing to go.
Now you have this ridiculous attack on Donald Trump coming out. He was saying that if you allow the Chinese to dominate the EV industry, which is what Biden's policies are promoting, you're going to destroy the auto industry in this country. It's going to be a bloodbath for the auto industry. It shows how low the media is willing to go to cover for Joe Biden. They know that they cannot win this election, so they're just going to lie about him for the next 8 months, which is why it's so important that we have real journalists, why we have X.com, why we push back against this craziness.
Google has been interfering with elections for decades, according to a new study from Media Research Center. Steve Jordahl reports.
It's the Friday after Donald Trump has shocked the world by taking the 2016 presidential election, and all the employees of Google attend an angry, desperate, tear-filled meeting where they vowed to never let something like this happen again.
I certainly find this election deeply offensive, and I know many of you do too.
Our values are strong. We will fight to protect them, and we will use the great strength and resources and reach we have to continue to advance really important values.
Michael Morris of MRC Free Speech America says they did indeed turn on the afterburners after that, but Google had been trying to game U.S. elections for at least 8 years prior.
Actually suspending accounts of writers who wrote blogs that were critical of Obama during his primary race against Clinton.
Media Research Center has compiled a list of electoral grievances against Google.
This is the first time that anyone has compiled all of the times that Google has interfered in elections. In fact, 41 times over the last 16 years. And it's had a major impact, and the impact has surged dramatically, making it ever more harmful to democracy.
Morris says election interference is a crime, but unfortunately, they're not a law firm. He promises to keep on yelling until someone pays attention.
We keep seeing this crop up again and again, and we're going to continue to keep our foot on the gas pedal here and exposing the out-and-out censorship that you see from these big tech companies.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
At least 1,000 Americans are stuck in Haiti as gangs battle for control of the nation. Brian Yennis has the latest near the Haiti border in the Dominican Republic.
The State Department does say that at least 1,000 Americans are trying to evacuate, and this could very well be one of the main ways to get out of Haiti by land. And yesterday, a dozen people were killed in the capital of Port-au-Prince when gangs launched attacks in two upscale neighborhoods there. The airport in Port-au-Prince is under gang control, making airplane evacuations difficult to impossible. Traveling by land through the gang-controlled territory is also dangerous. In fact, a charter flight organized by the U.S. from Cap Haitien over the weekend was a 6-hour drive from Port-au-Prince, and it was mostly empty with just over 30 Americans.
More news online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app for your Apple or Android device. I'm Rusty Pugh.
Thoughts of the child you were carrying keep pouring over in your mind. A deep, unrelenting sadness overshadows your days, and you wonder if you will ever feel whole again. There is hope and healing from a reproductive loss. Call the International Helpline, 866-482-LIFE, and talk with someone who has been where you are. Your call is confidential, and we will help you find healing. 866-482-LIFE.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues here on the American Family Radio Network. Podcasts. We have podcasts available for you. If you listen to this program and you're going to miss some of it, but you want to go back and listen to it again, you're going to miss tomorrow's show and you want to listen to it, you can simply go to our website. This is easy, folks. It sounds intimidating for a lot of people. Sounds high tech, but it's really not. It's low tech. AFR.net. Click on podcast. It's in English. PODCASTS. Right? Podcast.
PODCAST.
And then you click on there, and there's the banner for all the shows on AFR, and you can listen at will. So Today's Issues, we have our banner up there. So click on Today's Issues. You can listen to any of our shows, any of the other programs that you miss here on American Family Radio. Tim Wildman here with Ed Battagliano, Wesley Wildman, and Christopher Woodward.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chris.
I'm getting your stocks for you.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
You're getting what for me?
I'm getting your stock numbers for you.
I
Went
think
to
he
the
was
break.
just kidding.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, no, I'm here for this because to quote Tim Wildman, stocks go up and stocks go down.
Yeah, that's my theory on stocks.
Yeah,
It's
currently the
pretty
Dow
well
is
right.
up half a point. The S&P is about flat, and the NASDAQ is slightly down. I'm Chris Woodward.
Well, thank you, Chris. Can you give us the Chicago Mercantile Report, Chris? That's the
How
only
are
thing I
corn
missed.
futures doing?
Corn futures are...
I'm not even sure what that is.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
I've always... Yeah, I've heard about them.
Well, back in the, I remember back in the 70s and 80s, they would always give the
farm report.
They would give the farm report. They go to the Chicago Mercantile. What is a mercantile market? Is that like where
I
they
think
trade?
it's just an exchange.
Okay, kind of like a stock market for ag.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what it was.
I thought that's what. Anyway, they would talk about that. The January corn.
They were into it too.
Yeah,
I'm saying these people lived it.
There's a radio network here in Mississippi that still does a Agri-News report.
Yeah, because you need to know about
Mississippi Agri-News.
You need to know about your February hogs.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? How they doing? So anyway, thanks for listening to American Family Radio. What's your first story, Chris?
Well, if you're on the internet going to check out our podcast, spend some time by going over to afn.net. That is the website for American Family News. This is a story that's been around for a few days. It's gotten a lot of clicks, gotten a lot of shares, thanks to our listeners and readers at afn.net. You and Abe actually did a Reason and Company video on this yesterday, and I pulled the video of the woman I'm about to talk about. Her name is Patricia Silva. She lives in Fairbanks, Alaska, and she recently went to a Planet Fitness to work out and then left abruptly when she posted this video, clip 12.
Good day. I just wanted to say I just came out of Planet Fitness, and there is a man shaving in a women's bathroom.
Very startling video, but she's not the only person that's experienced this kind of thing. It's happening in a lot of places, not just Planet Fitness locations.
Planet Fitness is a big fitness club across America. They're national. They're top 5 or 6, I think.
Get a membership.
Yeah. We have one right down the street here from where we live. So a lot of people are familiar with Planet Fitness. So This lady is in Alaska. She went in and said a dude, and she complained to the management.
She did.
She complained to the management, right, Wesley?
Yeah, she complained to the management, and they said it was a very quick conversation. They immediately replied, "Well, you're banned from this. There's not even a discussion."
Talking about the lady who's the member who's saying that there's a guy in the women's shower area.
In that same video, she goes on to name the two individuals that are responsible for the staff that she went to. She named them by name and said, "I went to this gentleman and this lady and told them what happened." And they said, "Well, you can turn in your key now. You're no longer welcomed here. You're not a member no longer at this church. We're kicking you out." That was their immediate response. It wasn't even a discussion for them.
At this
particular
Planet Fitness.
Yep.
So bottom line is,
and she also said too that there was at that same instance, while this is going on, that there was a 12-year-old girl changing in the corner while this man is shaving in there, and she said somebody needs to stand up for this 12-year-old girl, even if that means me. And then she goes on further to call out all of ladies across the country that says this is on you, ladies. If you want to change this, the ball is in
lead Planet Fitness.
Yep, the ball's in your court
because it's a membership club.
It
and
is.
Planet
Just like Rally Gaines.
So Planet Fitness did their corporate respond to
Yes.
this? Okay,
They've defended it.
Correct.
Yes.
I can read the statement if you want.
Okay, but let me give
that's what we need.
kind of the full story here. I absolutely side with the lady who's complaining and the boycott, all of that, but she got bounced. This Patricia Silva, I think,
the lady we heard a while ago.
Yes. She got her. She was canceled and kicked out of Planet Fitness because she took a photo of the guy.
That's right.
Correct.
In the bathroom. So that is what Planet Fitness is saying.
She was shaving. He wasn't going to the bathroom. or
Right.
nothing.
Right.
He
But
was
they have
shaving.
a policy against
Using the
taking
phones and the
pictures.
So that's worse
of
than
other
a
people.
guy being.
No, I'm
allowed
not.
to
he's
get
not
into the
saying
I'm
window.
not defending it. I am
know.
saying that she may not have gotten the boot if she had not taken
The
it.
bottom line, Planet Fitness welcomes men to go into women's shower areas and the bathrooms, and they don't give a rip.
That's right.
Right.
All you got to do is say you're a girl, and you're free to roam. And when you complain about it, Planet Fitness sides with the, quote, transgenders, not with the women and girls. That's
And the
bottom line,
12-year-old
right?
girl.
Huh?
And they didn't side with the 12-year-old girl changing in there. You got to read this, or you got to listen to this.
Yeah.
What am I about to hear?
Well, let me mention this real quick. Some people might think, well, didn't this happen a few years ago? And if you're one of those listeners, you would be correct. In 2015, a Michigan woman sued her local Planet Fitness after discovering a man who claimed to be transgender in the women's locker room. Like in this situation, the company defended the man. She sued, and after several years of litigation, a court ruled in her favor, finding that the gym was at fault for violating the Consumer Protection Act. Planet Fitness's stated mission is to, quote, enhance people's lives by providing a high-quality fitness experience in a welcoming, non-intimidating environment, which we call the judgment-free zone, where anyone, and we mean anyone, can feel they belong,
Okay.
end quote.
I'll tell you why that's not true. They said, what was it, Donna, intimidating? I think it's intimidating for a 12-year-old girl to see a dude up there in the bathroom with her.
Right.
I think that's a little intimidating.
Changing,
yeah, because this woman saw one of the men nude.
Yes.
right?
That's right.
Yeah.
As they say down here, naked as a jaybird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Naked.
So there you go. With Planet Fitness, this has given them a black eye in the public for the last few days. Their stocks dropped 7%. I don't know if this is doing any long-term damage to them, but their stocks dropped 7%. That's a pretty drastic drop-off in the last few days, and they are losing. What is a lot? They're losing members.
Yeah, I like what Wesley said. This is on women, okay? To
take
stop,
charge.
to take charge.
Yep.
Okay, I'm not saying it's on women that a man's going into. I'm saying if women want to stop this in athletics, we've all heard of high school teams who don't want to compete against men. Girls are getting beat up. They're getting volleyballs off
Basketball.
the face. All this kind of thing. If women want this to stop, women are going to have to take charge. Women are going to have to If you got a 50% drop in membership at Planet Fitness, guess what? Planet Fitness caves. Okay? If women say we're not participating, the entire swim team at our college, we are not going to go. If women stop competing against men, colleges will have to yield. High schools will have to yield.
It is down today.
Many states, I say many, I don't know how many exact, maybe 12 to 15, maybe more, have passed laws that prohibit boys from competing against girls in sports. Right?
Right.
And I don't care if you call yourself a girl, you're not a girl. Okay?
Right.
If you are or if you're born a boy, you're a boy.
Yes.
You can put on a dress and call yourself a girl, even put on eyeshadow if you want to, paint your fingernails, but you're not a girl. Okay? You're a boy.
Yeah.
And so if you want to dress up and walk around like that, call yourself a girl, that's your business. But don't
force.
But you're not.
Right.
You're not a female. You're a male. Go ahead.
This lady Silva, who was the one that was banned from attending the Planet Fitnesses because she had a problem with men and women's restrooms with 12-year-old girls in there. She also made sure in her video, which we can't play on here, but she pointed out many times that he had male genitalia parts and repeated that multiple times to get the point across.
Right.
Because she understands that that it needs to be
that he's a guy
out there.
He's a guy. He's not a girl.
We're at the point where we have to be PG. That's okay.
Riley Gaines and Paula Scanlon, who is another female athlete speaking out about males and female sports. They were in Mississippi last September. I went there along with Parrish Alford and some other people with AFN.net. Governor Reeves was there for a campaign event. He was running for governor at the time, running for re-election. And Riley Gaines talked about when it came to the Will Thomas situation. Will goes by Leah, but he's Will. She talked about how they were literally next to him as they were having to change in front of him, and he was changing in front of them. So, I mean, it's happening everywhere.
Hey, one other thing. I get really fired about this. I listened to the whole thing. She also said at the end of the video, she said, and I'm ready for my safe space back when y'all ready to give it to me.
Yeah.
Safe space. She wants her safe space. Remember that?
There you go.
College campuses, everybody's got to have their safe space. Everybody is equal. Well, she wants her equal safe space back.
Can you put that interview on our Today's Issues Facebook page, Brent? So we have a Today's Issues Facebook page, and we will put the video Wesley's talking about up there where this, what's the lady's name?
Patricia
Silva, yes.
Good for her. In Anchorage, Alaska, is that where you
Fairbanks,
said she is?
Alaska.
Fairbanks, Alaska. You know, the same people who say a male or a female can call themselves the opposite sex just because they feel a certain way are the same people who say they believe in science.
Right. Right.
Have you noticed this?
That men can have a baby and
it's just bizarre.
And you can't change your sexual orientation, but you can change your sex.
Yes.
That's another one.
How does that work?
Yeah.
Next story, Chris.
Yeah, this one is brand new, and it involves something from Rasmussen Reports. I'm reading from Washington Examiner. Paul Bedard wrote this morning.
Paul wrote that?
Yeah, he did. Basically, in the latest Rasmussen Reports survey, an overwhelming majority of voters say they think we ought to use the word illegal immigrant and say things like they are contributing to, quote, violent crime when they are actually arrested for and found guilty of committing violent crime. The reason I bring this up is because the Biden administration and Nancy Pelosi and their allies in the Senate and the House have long argued that we should use the words like undocumented immigrant because it's harmful and offensive.
They don't even go with undocumented anymore. It's immigrant.
Yeah.
That comment's probably out of date.
Yeah. Well, you know, there was the State of the Union, and I'm sure you guys talked about this while I was out last week. But Biden did initially refer to the man arrested in Georgia for murdering the Georgia nursing student. He referred to her, to the suspect as an illegal, to which he later said he regretted and should have said undocumented.
We not only talked about that story while you were out, we talked about you while you were out. So
I have no doubt.
I just want to make that clear.
You know you're doing something right, Mom, when they're talking about you.
That's right.
I tried to stop them, Chris, but they kept on going here. I was defending you, brother.
I'll pick up your dry cleaning today.
Next story.
All right. You guys talked about global warming and climate change briefly in the previous
We
hour.
exhausted that topic.
Yes. Well, this
See what I did
factors
there?
in.
Exhaust?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you
Carbon
go.
emissions?
Yes.
So we
That's a
exhausted
stretch.
that
Oh, we got
story?
it. We
You
got
don't
it.
get No, you don't get that one. This is a
Huh?
stretch.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't
I
get
see
that
what you did there.
Yeah.
This factors into the discussion, and CNN has this out, which you ought to believe it, folks, if it's from CNN.
Yeah.
The world's 100 worst polluted cities are in Asia, and 83 of them are in just one country. Bangladesh is one of the biggest polluters in the world, and I bring all this up because Biden and others are saying we need to change our way of living and completely flip the script on everything we drive, cook with, all that other stuff to help save the world from our pollution.
Meanwhile, Asia, China, India, and now Bangladesh.
Well, there's a picture with this story, the CNN story. It says morning walkers, and there's some joggers here, seen during a cold and hazy morning. This is in New Delhi,
That's
India.
India. That's not Bangladesh.
Yeah, it's New Delhi. So, and it looks absolutely filthy.
Oh, yeah. Picture the fog, that movie, The Fog from back in the day, and people running through the fog.
Yeah.
You'll get an idea of what
you
I'm
know,
talking about.
back 25, 30 years ago, maybe longer, you would see pictures of Los Angeles with heavy smog, maybe New York City, big metropolitan areas, but they've cleaned that up now pretty well. The U.S., despite what these climate change activists spout all the time, the U.S. is the cleanest planet on Earth. We are ready.
You said U.S. is the cleanest planet. You meant U.S. is the cleanest country.
We are planet clean.
Yes.
We are planet clean.
Oh, I was thinking Planet Fitness. Sorry.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah. I knew.
Yeah. I misspoke there. But yes, we're the cleanest country on Earth.
That's right. Yeah.
Huh? I mean, you know why? Because nobody wants to breathe that stuff.
Right.
Listen, when they when they did the whole the California spent all that time getting a bill passed to get rid of plastic straws. Okay. When they did that, they didn't even that was a PR stunt because the paper straws that they used, they later found had as much or more chemicals in the glue that they were using for the paper straws that they got passed.
It actually makes things worse.
So my point is, if they were sincere in their, which I think it's a total waste of time and money and effort, but if you were sincere in it and you wanted to follow it to the end, you would have studied the glue that they were using on how they were doing the paper straws.
If I could do it, they could. I study glue on a regular basis.
I'd go by your office and I saw you with that microscope and.
No, all you did was say, "I'm tired of these paper straws falling apart when I'm trying to drink my drink."
Yeah,
because they just start falling
apart. The name
apart.
of saving the planet.
Oh my word!
No, listen, you don't give him enough credit. He had those straws in that wrapper under the microscope. He was doing the chemical analysis.
I study. Well, somebody's got to do it.
Yes.
Somebody's got to study.
You did it without a government grant.
Yeah.
That's what I appreciate.
I did it just for fun, Study straws. I study glue.
Yeah.
In the name of saving the planet. Oh, my word.
So, because I got to be prepared for this show.
Yes.
Because I knew that topic would come up sometime.
Yes.
We do have a science and tech section of AFN.net if you want to contribute.
We do now. Well, I'll consider that, Chris. Thank you
science
for the offer.
and tech section.
AFN.net
section.
That's
categories.
It is there.
I see it. Science and tech. By the way, give a shout out. Explain to people about American Family News because listen, we do have categories. I'm right there on the website. Church, education, media, mission.
You mean at our news website?
Our news website. Culture, legal, courts, medical and health, national security, science
what about
and
glue,
tech.
Glue and straws.
Opinion.
That's what he's saying. It's under the science and.
You're all welcome to contribute.
Okay, what Ed's talking about
is
popcorn. We, American Family Radio, employ journalists to do news each and every day here. Chris being one of them, Fred being the director, and so we have a website dedicated to just the news. We're serious about this. So if you're tired of the liberal bias in the news and you want to get news from a trusted source, our website, right?
AFN.net. And the cool thing about AFN.net is we are a radio and print news operation. So if you like getting your news over the radio, if you're somebody that likes to be told what's going on in the world, please do continue to listen to this network because at the top of every hour, We've got a newscast with about 4.5 minutes worth of content to help you and yours be informed on what's going on today, tomorrow, what have you, and what people are saying about the big issues. You can then hop over to afn.net for those stories and a whole lot more content. Because it's not just what you hear on the radio. Do visit afn.net for Associated Press material. We have videos. There's a lot of columns, even a political cartoon, and a latest from the web section that Rusty Pugh puts together to help save you from having to hop around to different websites.
All right, Chris, we got about 5 minutes to go here. What do you got? What else you got?
In related news with the stories there out of Asia and people trying to be more earth-friendly, there's a battle brewing between a Chinese company and a small Michigan town that initially said it would be open to this Chinese firm coming to Michigan and building an electric vehicle battery project. But the town has decided, maybe we don't want to do that. It's not in our best interest. The name of the town is Green Charter Township in Michigan, and they have decided they're not going to allow this Chinese firm, which is Goshen Incorporated, whose parent company is tied with the Chinese Communist Party. They don't want them to come to town, and so now the Chinese group is suing Green Charter Township in U.S. federal court for breach of contract, saying you must allow us to build our EV batteries there in your town in Michigan.
Yeah, that's disappointing.
Can't trust the communists. Communist China.
Yeah.
China.
I will tell you that...
Or some people call it China.
China.
They do call it China.
You go back in the woods.
I haven't heard China, but that was a great impression of Trump.
China.
Yeah.
China.
I will mention that many, if not most, Chinese companies are overseen or basically operated by the Chinese Communist Party. So if this is happening or somebody's courting your town, that company from China probably has ties to communists.
There's also a story about a Chinese weather balloon company that's being unwelcomed in Ohio. I don't know if you guys saw this
Biden
story.
administration has welcomed those balloons
They're
go anywhere they want.
They're weather balloons.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they want to fly them all across America, and there are military installations.
Nothing sinister about a communist Chinese weather balloon.
No.
What could go wrong?
And they're very helpful, too, making sure that we have vaccines for viruses that they create, too. So
Creating demand. That's what's called creating demand. We give you the disease and then provide the solution. I'm starting to go off.
And the mask.
Yes, and the mask.
Oh, yeah, thank you
And the
for
mask.
that. Appreciate
Make the
that,
mask.
Donna.
We'll make the mask for you.
Whoops.
We got about a minute and a half left. Probably a good thing, Chris.
I'm sorry.
Got any filler? Anything left?
I do. Yeah, I can
What do you
mention
got
this.
left over there, Chris?
I can mention this real quick. It's a Steve Jordahl segment, so I brought in a Steve Jordahl story. Newsbusters, specifically media research.
Like Ghostbusters, except for news?
Who are you going to call? Newsbusters. They have a report out that finds 41 times Google has interfered in U.S. elections since the year 2008. Yeah. This began in 2008. It picked up in 2016 and continued even into this year. Yeah. And Steve Jordahl, who did a story for us today in his absence, interviewed Michael Morris of MRC Free Speech America on this very issue. Clip 10.
This is the first time that anyone has compiled all of the times that Google has interfered in elections. In fact, 41 times over the last 16 years, and it's had a major impact, and the impact has surged dramatically, making it ever more harmful to democracy.
I will post a link to this report so you can see the various examples and detailed examples that MRC/Newsbusters put together for this report.
What do you use besides Google? Yahoo?
I use DuckDuckGo.
DuckDuckGo and Yahoo or Bing, are they any better?
Well, I don't think any of them.
DuckDuckGo is,
but DuckDuckGo does have.
They're not
tracking.
They're not trying to interfere with elections.
Right.
Well, that's 100% true.
Yeah. Okay.
They also block a lot of. Anyway, it's a safer experience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, anyway, Google, one of those Silicon Valley uber liberal companies, and so this story, maybe we can revisit this tomorrow because I wanted to go into more detail on this and explain how this research was done that showed that Google.
And by the way, what I meant was Google Chrome, the browser.
Right.
That's
what did what did you think we meant?
Well, I will sometimes use
way.
Google to search something.
Oh, okay, got
But in terms of the browser, I use DuckDuckGo.
Sure.
You know, I used to have a neighbor named Google Chrome.
Google Chrome?
Yeah, the Chrome family.
It is a good thing time's out.
I thought that was an odd name.
It's a good-
The Chrome family.
Yeah.
Chrome family.
AFN.
I'm used to crime families, not Chrome families. But
Do I need to help us out here? Everyone go visit AFN, American
Right.
Family News.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Keep listening to American Family Radio.
Spiritual Heritage Tours with AFA President Tim Wildman include a tour of Washington, D.C. and a separate tour of colonial Williamsburg, Jamestown, and Yorktown with tour guide Stephen McDowell, president of the Providence Foundation.